Welcome to the Whip, another installment, another week, and great to have each and every one of you with us, wherever you're joining us from at home here in Guyana, in the Caribbean, internationally, in the diaspora. We invite you guys to share the live stream as you come on. Again, welcome to the Whip, and we couldn't have our program on, and we don't give you guys our introduction. Welcome back to the Whip, wherever you're joining us from, at home here in Guyana, in the Caribbean region, internationally, wherever you are joining us in the diaspora. We invite you guys to share the live stream. And there's something about that introduction that gets me in a mood to fight. And I'm pleased to have with me this afternoon the one and only, the Honorable Ganesh Mahipal. Ganesh, a very good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Sherrod. Thank you very much for having me on the whip.
Awesome. And folks, as a matter of full disclosure, Ganesh is discharging the functions of the office of the opposition chief whip in the absence of Christopher Jones, who is getting some much needed R&R at this time. So Ganesh, congratulations in this new role for the time being, and you are more than well suited and well qualified, fit and proper.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. So Ganesh, I want to share with our viewers what we're going to be dealing with in our order paper for this afternoon. We are going to be reflecting on budget estimates 2021, and in particular, the agriculture sector, and also financial paper 2 of 2021, which is just recent, which also focuses on the agriculture sector. And hopefully within the next half hour or thereabout, we are going to adjourn our program until we have the next program. So again, we're dealing with the agriculture sector from budget estimates 2021 and from financial paper 2 of 2021. So Ganesh, on our order paper, the agriculture sector is center and foremost. I want to deal with the estimates and what was actually passed for budget 2021. We had $22.6 billion going to the agricultural sector. And then we had, in terms of drainage and irrigation, another $12 billion going to the agricultural sector. It was this and other estimates that were passed and became the national budget that they touted as the biggest budget ever. And we see these unprecedented floods came, and they have come back to the National Assembly through the financial paper 2 of 2021 and asked for more money for the agricultural sector. And then we see them also reaching out for pumps in the form of donation or assistance for pumps internationally. Is this bad budgeting in the first instance? Because this budget was supposed to have taken care, at least in the drainage and irrigation sector, it was up from, I think, 8 billion to close to $13 billion. And within the short space of these 4 or 5 months since the budget has been passed, they've come back asking for more money. They've already signaled that they're coming back again. It seems that the only time we see the PPP in the House is when they're behaving like a bad spouse and only asking for money.
Yes, you are correct, Sherrod. You are very much correct. They have huge sums of monies that were budgeted for in 2021 budget, and I see the grand total is somewhere around 19,490,159,000, and that is the sum that, if you disaggregate it for every program under the Ministry of Agriculture, you're going to see how they are expected to spend that sum of money. But of course, it is worrying to know that 1 month after the approval of this budget in its totality, you have this installed regime coming back for more monies, and they cannot provide justifiable reasons why they need these monies. We are well informed and well aware that COVID is here. We are well informed and well aware that the flood situation is here, and it has caused many devastation in various communities, if not the entire Guyana. But one would have expected that the government does not use these situations to basically thief the money, as opposed to them not providing any reasons behind why they require these additional sums of monies. And it is worrying. It is very much worrying.
Worrying to the effect, Ganesh, that we see farmers crying out for help from the government. We spoke with one farmer there in a place called Maibukuri in Region 6 there. Some other places badly hit, and they said they have not seen the government since the flood started more than 3 weeks ago. One even indicated that vets came, did nothing, basically looked at the water, looked at the cattle, and left them on their own. Quite recently, Ganesh, we saw one rice farmer from the quarantine took his own life because the debts that are mounting because of the lands are underwater. They cannot cultivate these lands. And we saw several other farmers in quarantine pleading for financial help from the government. What is happening with this installed administration?
Well, Sharon, I think it is necessary for me to inform your viewers that under the Ministry of Agriculture, as I indicated, they have a sum of 19 billion thereabout for their total budget. And if you are to look at what is the sum that is allocated to the hydrometeorological services, which is a program under the Ministry of Agriculture, they have a total of $555 million, and they could not have provided us with the necessary information to tell us the magnitude of rain we were going to get. In fact, they weren't even able to tell us on which day rain was going to fall. And you see this failed service, this hydrometeorological service, not living up to its standard. And we continue to pour money into these sectors, and they seem not to function effectively. And I know that there were external help coming for this particular service, the hydrometeorological service, and I'm not sure if that is going to assist in any way or what they're doing with these monies, because $555 million, and we are in the month of June, June, ending June, going into July, and they have not provided us, and they have not given us any justice for them to request more monies. Very, very scary. And there are other sectors also, like the agriculture development and support service, which is expected to assist farmers and, provide the pumps and so on, aid in drainage and irrigation services and so on. They got $17 billion, 17 billion 51 and 51,117,000 dollars. That's what they got from this budget. But yet we have a number of farmlands underwater where they're putting the pumps. Only God knows if they are pumps that they bought and those kind of things. So I think, and if we are to look at this thing very carefully, because of these numbers that are just placed here and bailing out of monies into these ministries, not just agriculture, all the ministries, if the Auditor General is to do a forensic audit on this 2021 budget, and he will do it at the end of 2021, we are going to find a number of discrepancies. And I believe that is exactly what the People's Progressive Party is trying to deprive the Public Accounts Committee from doing. They're trying to deprive the Public Accounts Committee from examining the numbers that they have and they have abused, abused and refused to make public on their spending. But they come to the National Assembly 1 month after passage of this large budget and want more monies with no justifiable reasons. Something is wrong with these people. It is as though their hands are so sticky that they know they don't have long more in office, so they're just stealing as much as they can to put in their pockets.
So MP Maipol, it's interesting as you say. Should the Auditor General do a forensic audit of this spending? Because again, it was in 2021, just a couple months ago, early March, when this budget was passed, and 12 billion went to drainage and irrigation. And in their budget, they said the PPPC administration, install administration, is reaffirming its commitment to supporting the drainage and irrigation system by investing this 12 billion in critical intervention. So what did this money go to if it didn't go to pumps? If it did
Well,
not go to pumps?
it is simple what it's going to. You see, if you have good planning and you have a structured approach to this May, June period, then we would not have been in the situation that we're currently in. Instead of the government being proactive, they have adopted to the reactive strategy. And the reaction to flooding is what is causing large sums of monies to go into their friends and families' pocket. You see, if they were preparing for this flood situation, Sharon, they would have done the structured thing, and that is to tender out publicly the cleaning of drains, canals, and trenches. So to dig the drains, to dig the canals and trenches, to have excavators doing excavation work, it would have required public tendering where contractors bid, and the lowest responsive bidder would have been awarded the contract for whichever trench, canal, or drain they're talking about cleaning. But instead of doing that, they have instead reacted to the flood situation, which caused them to now do what people will say as soul sourcing, where they just call a contractor who is a friend of theirs, and they say, listen, we got this trench to dig, we got this canal to dig, or we got this drain to dig, and we need to do it now because our people, they're underwater, it's an emergency, and the drains, canals, and trenches need to be cleared. And the contractor would say, okay, give me $12 million and I'm going to do it. They're going to say, yeah, good and glory, let's sign the contract, $12 million gone. But if they would have tendered that out and they would have had it on a system of open tendering, then you would have had people bidding for it, and it could have very well cost us less than $12 million, and the work would have been done in the April, May, June period before this heavy downpour, and we would have been in a better situation with more monies in our coffers so that we could attend to other infrastructure improvement and on a drainage and irrigation work that is necessary, as opposed to just going into the consolidated fund, collecting monies, putting it in friends and families' pockets.
Yep. I agree with you there. For those folks who are now joining us, I'm talking with MP Ganesh Mahipal, who is rather discharging the functions of opposition chief whip, and ably doing so. And we're talking about trouble in the agricultural sector. This is a half-hour program in which we look at all things parliamentary, the issues and the individuals in the House. We scrutinize the bills, motions, questions brought to the National Assembly, and we even interrogate the answers that were tabled, and more so, how all of this impacts you as citizens. MP Mahipal, I want to turn our attention to the hurt again that our farmers are feeling. As I said, tragically, our thoughts and prayers go out to this quarantine farmer who took his own life quite recently, and all the other farmers who are hurting, whether it's in quarantine, Maibikuri, Yakasari, Pomeroon, wherever in the country they are hurting. And talking about the Pomeroon, MP Mahipal, MP Sherwin Holder, and giving us an update what is happening at his end in the Pomeroon recently, told us that the price of urea has gone up from $4,000 to $5,800 per bag. He tells us that rice farmers in the region are under severe pressure and are now asking where is the $3,500 per bag that was promised by the installed PPP regime. And the farmers there are saying that everything has gone up except the price of paddy. What are your thoughts as our farmers are out there hurting in this critical time?
Sherrod, I am going to be honest with you. I
Thank you.
believe that the people of our country have regretted the presence of the PPP in government. I know that the people of Guyana did not vote for them because there are credible evidence to support that claim, and evidence were found in the national recount of 2020 elections. But you see, our people, they were not kicking up a storm because of this fraudulent means that caused the PPP to go into office. Instead, our people were fearful, by right. Our people were worried, yes, but they allowed the PPP to take its course in government. And now I believe that our people, they are very much ashamed of the People's Progressive Party, and they regret the absence of the APNU AFC. It is evidential in the manner in which we see the PPP governing. The PPP makes a promise in campaign time and will not facilitate and provide that promise to our Guyanese people. They promised a reduction in cost of living, and we see where cost of living is. This is not us making up a story. We see what is right now trending. The price for the squash,
Yep.
$2,000+.
Yep.
It's not the
Yep.
urea fertilizer alone that carries a high price. Vegetables are carrying a high price, and it's not because of the flooding. The prices of these commodities were going up long before our country was underwater. We have basic food items, and our people can't live. Right now, they're punishing because of these increase in prices. And what one would have expected a caring government to do is to give the salary increase that you promised to the public sector workers. But they are not the only people that we want to represent in terms of benefiting from salary increase. So the government is in a position to reduce the income tax that persons have to pay so that they will be allowed to have more disposable income in their pockets. The government also has the space to increase the income tax threshold so that more disposable income can be in our people's pocket. The government also has a hand with the private sector where they can negotiate for private sector workers to be given a better salary. Sherrod, right now, minimum wage is $65,000 in the public sector. The private sector, it is way lower than that. And a public sector employee cannot live on $65,000.
Yep.
Rent alone,
And
a cheap apartment is $25,000. And if it's in
MP, my
Georgetown, it's way more expensive than that.
I want to interject there to state for the members of the public that the David Granger-led coalition increased wages and salary every year of its tenure. Two budgets later, the PPP has said nothing about wages and salary. Suffice to say, they told us in the 2021 budget, in line item 6141, there was an increase there for public servants. And the public servants are still waiting to hear what that increase entails.
Exactly. And it is very distasteful to know that you have a regime, you have a minister of finance who has more experience in budgeting and in parliamentary matters than you and I combined, Sherrod. But we are not fools, and we will not allow him to fool us. He spoke about economic dynamism.
Yeah.
Where is the economic dynamism in our country? We may not have the experience as Ashni Singh has, or Gail Teixeira with her 40 years of service in the National Assembly, but definitely we are not stupid. And definitely we are not going to allow them bluff us, because we are in an era where technology is dominating, and the dissemination of information is readily available for anyone to participate and consume. And when we get the information and we share it to the public is now in a better position to determine whether it is the coalition that is bluffing them or whether it is the PPP that is continuing to bluff them. And we have established that the PPP is full of bluff. They're full of bluffs. And Frank, on the other hand, with this Sputnik V vaccine and this COVID pandemic, he is trying to prank us. But we're not going to fall prey to that. We have the information at our disposal. The PPP is bad news for Guyana. Everybody is seeing that. You have people are dying at a fast rate. I put on my social media page earlier this morning because I was thinking about it. At the rate at which people are dying, I'm afraid that
Yeah,
I will die before I reach 60 and will
yeah,
not be able to get my NIS benefits.
yeah,
So it's best the government let people stop pay NIS because they're just not going to get it with this regime, this callous regime that seems not to care about the majority of people in this country. You cannot talk about preserving and protecting lives and livelihood, and all of your actions are centered or focused on corruption, cronyism, and nepotism. It's very terrible.
yeah, yeah. Well said, MP Mahipal. And as you reflect on the installed minister with responsibility for finance, thinking that we are silly, we can read and we can write. We understand math and we understand English. And it was in his budget presentation. He told us what happened in 2020 under the Granger-led administration. He said, for instance, agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector, estimated to have grown by 4.1%. Grown. He says this improved position was largely on account for the growth in rice and other crops and the livestock industry, which more than offset contractions observed in sugar, forestry, and fishing. I'm just going to quote a couple of these from the budget presentation. He went on to state that the rice growing sector grew by 4.8% in 2020. Paddy production went over 1 million tons in 2020, 0.8 above the previous year. And finally, the final quote here, he said, with respect to the other crops, despite excessive rainfall last year, November and December, this sector grew by 6.6%, right? 6.6%. He spoke about the livestock sector in particular. He said this grew in 2020 by 5%, whether it was poultry, eggs, beef production, all these areas showed growth. Definitely, they're not going to come anywhere close to this. Not only in view of the flood, but even because of their management of this sector prior. What is the road ahead, MP Mahipur?
Well, Sharad, as I would have said before, the APNU AFC had a structured approach where we were looking way ahead of our time. And we recognized that it was necessary to lay a strong and firm foundation. So we were not talking about a 5-year plan. In fact, David Granger and his team were focusing on a decade of development. We know under the People's Progressive Party, we had the decade of debt, where a number of persons lost their lives prematurely. In 2000 to 2009, thereabout, you had those turbulent seasons. Massacres were raiding our country at the Lindo Creek,
Yeah,
Bartical, Lusignan. You had the death of Satyadeo Saw. To date, we can't know who killed Satyadeo Saw.
yeah,
We had the jailbreaks. We had a series of unfortunate activities that have caused us to categorize that period of the PPP administration as the decade of death. Now we were talking about the decade of development, and the decade of development was focusing on building these sectors by looking at long-term ways and means of strengthening the fruits from the tree that you're expected to pick it from. And I'm saying that to say that once you have a good foundation, or your tree is planted on good fertile ground, then you are guaranteed for it to grow and blossom and flourish, so that when you pick the fruits, it will be edible, it will be good for your body, and it will provide you with the nutrients that you require. But when you have a haphazard way of doing things, and you want to grow the fruits so quickly by putting fertilizer around its root, all you're doing is you are gonna get force ripe fruits. You know, people say it's force ripe. Well, that's what we're getting from the PPP. It looks as though they want to achieve everything in 1 year, everything they want to get in 2 years, everything they want to get in 3 years. And instead of laying firm, strong, and committed foundation, their foundation is so weak that everything is crumbling as we speak, and it is compounded by these disasters that our country currently face. And no one should blame the flood or the COVID for what is happening. What they should do is liken it to bad management, where the old used tires are back on the streets and they are causing us to be in the situation we currently find ourselves in.
Yeah, yeah. Well said, MP Mike Paul. Couldn't put it any better. As we wind down our program, I know that the distribution of hampers have been a major issue with this flood. You had persons in Rosignol, farmers in Rosignol, saying to this installed administration that a bag of rice, a small bag of rice, is not a hamper. We saw them recently refusing items from Trinidad, flood relief items from Trinidad. I know you were quite recently in Region 7, Bartica, and part of that exercise saw the team there distributing hampers and so on. Tell us a little bit about how that activity went as we close.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, the people of Bartica Region 7, they were very receptive. They welcomed us at the Stellin, and they were very happy to see the coalition's presence in their region. And they know that the coalition has a strong presence in that region. Unfortunately, we could not have provided assistance to all of the people of Region 7, but the little that we could have done, we did. And I think the people are very much appreciative that we had an assessment done so as to ascertain the most vulnerable, and we provided to the most vulnerable. We did not go to friends and family. We did not go to party associates. We went to the most vulnerable. And I think the people of Barticle saluted us for that, and they very much welcomed that initiative. We did have an engagement with them after that distribution exercise, and they expressed how saddened they are at the manner in which the People's Progressive Party administration is running this country and its affairs, and they are basically worried at the fact that the spin-off from this bad management can cause an increase in crime, and it can see us moving into a state of disrepair, and it may basically cause greater harm to a nation that was on a trajectory to progress well with those 5 years of the coalition. The people are basically saying, in a nutshell, they want the coalition back. They cannot handle these thieves. They believe that these bullies, these thieves, these riggers deserve to pack themselves in a corner and probably force themselves in a barrel and float out in the Atlantic Ocean, and allow the country to be run smoothly with the APNU AFC, which has done an excellent job for the 5 years they have been there under tremendous pressure. But they did an exceptional job for those 5 years. And many of the Barticians believe that had the coalition continued, then they would have been in a better place today than they are right now. But they do accept, Mr. Duncan, they do accept that this is just a pause. The coalition is just on pause. And that button will be pressed again, and the coalition will play once again, and the people of Guyana will return to normalcy. They will return to good governance, and the good life will transcend into a better life for all Guyanese.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I think that might have been your final words, but I'm going to ask nonetheless, your final words in this critical period in our nation's history, as a very installed administration described as a national disaster, their management, a national disaster. Your thoughts to the people of this country, and in particular to the agricultural sector and those persons who depend on it.
I will tell the people of the agriculture sector, first of all, that they should stay the course. Stay the course, the coalition will be back. There is no doubt that the APNU AFC is the administration for this country. That has been proven over the last 10 months of the PPP. What the PPP has done in this country for the last 10 months is so magnanimous in terms of destroying our country that nothing they do going forward can cause us to erase those 10 months of destruction. But what we can do to ensure that there is no more destruction on the part of the PPP is to vote them out of office. It is very straightforward. Vote them out of office. An election will come. An election has to come. We are a people of democracy. We will rise above all, and we will ensure that we return this country to stability. We will ensure that this country is put back on its right footing and the right track. The only thing that you have to do as agriculture people, farmers, cash crop, whether you're dealing with rice, even to the sugarcane farmers, all you have to do is to vote them out. Vote the PPP out. And the people of Guyana, stay with us. We will fight the good fight, and we are fighting it for you. We will continue to fight the good fight for you. And you have to, all that you have to do is to stay the course with us, rally with us, stand up for the democracy, stand up for justice, stand up for one people, one nation, and we can all have that common destiny. Guyana is yours, Guyana is ours, and Guyana will return to normalcy, but we have to ensure the APNU AFC returns to office for that. Thank you.
Fantastic, MP Ganesh Mahipur. Thank you for spending this time with me. And again, we wish you well in discharging the functions of the office of the Opposition Chief Whip. Thanks again, MP Mahipur.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Great. And guys, that is our time, unfortunately, for this week on The Whip, a half-hour program in which we focus on all things parliamentary, the issues and individuals in the House of the National Assembly, scrutinizing the bills. We scrutinize motions, questions brought, questions, answers tabled, and more so how all of this affects us as citizens. Thanks for joining The Whip for this week.